we have some breaking news around the ABS system that is sure to make fans happy. I pulled up this first slide from February 20th. We have to go back. The first two instances of the ABS challenge system occurred in today's Cubs-Dodgers game. We saw both a call overturned and confirmed. And as you can see here, I just wanted to kind of quickly relive the experience. We have the player tapping the hat and asking for the pitch to be reviewed. And then we have the ABS system, which has these pink graphics because it's sponsored by T-Mobile.
Okay.
But shows you if it's in this zone or not. And it's a very fast system. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds to overturn a pitch. And that's that. And it's a really simple system. We, of course, saw an ejection over the weekend in the Rays-Astros game when a helmet was tapped in the middle of the at-bat. That was kind of funny. I wonder if that caused MLB to act on this, honestly, because it's hard for players, I think, even when they're doing it in a snarky way, to ignore their muscle memory. And you trained them to do this during spring training. And when they're upset, especially about something, it's an involuntary reaction almost, right?
Absolutely. And that's a great system. You training with the system in spring training in the minors, and then it's taken away when the season starts.
They got to test things, so
sure.
And they have to allow things to happen
naturally
on a natural schedule. They can't just be like, oh, we love this, let's break our own rules to implement it right away.
No, that wouldn't work.
Because we got to read this article here. This was from Evan Drellich in The Athletic. The headline reads, Manfred, MLB will propose automated ball strike challenge system for 2026. Nika, that's next year.
But I will welcome the change.
Absolutely. Me too. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is probably happening so quickly.
So hold on. It says it will propose. Does that mean somebody has to vote on this?
Let's get into the article.
Okay.
New York Commissioner Rob Manfred said Wednesday he plans to introduce a proposal to Major League Baseball's competition committee that would bring the automated ball strike system to MLB in 2026. Barring a change of heart inside Manfred's group, ABS appears likely to arrive in the big leagues next year. The league office has enough votes on the 11-person committee, which is also made up of player representatives and one umpire, to push through what it wants. And, this sounds a little bit like a party in politics that has like the House, the Senate, and the White House so that they can kind of push through any agenda they want, doesn't it?
Yeah, they have to talk among each other and collectively agree on something or not. We need one more vote, or we need one less vote, or whatever.
Human umpires would still make the vast majority of ball strike calls, but teams would start each game with 2 challenges to the umpire's opinion. Umpires would then rely on a technology system that the league has tested for years in the minor leagues and in Major League spring training this year. Teams retain the challenge if they get the call overturned. So if you win, you keep it. If you lose, you lose it. This reminds me of the NFL and the red flag challenge system that coaches get. They get 2 per game, 1 per half, and if you win, you retain. So there's no limit to how many times you can challenge in a game as long as you are right. To continue the article here, I do think that we're going to pursue the possibility of changing that process, and we'll see what comes out at the end of that, Manfred said at MLB headquarters. Quote, I think that teams are really positive about ABS. I do have that unscientific system that I use, my email traffic, and my distinct impression is that using ABS in spring training has made people more prone to complain about balls and strike calls via email to me, referencing the need for ABS. That is undoubtedly true. Undoubtedly true. So he repeated himself there at the end of the quote. Undoubtedly true, Nika. I think from a fan perspective, it's really, really annoying to see a lot of the bad calls on Twitter and on social media just on repeat. And it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse as we go on. So I don't know where that leaves us. I would tend to agree with him. I think teams probably want this. For all the rule changes that players and teams have been against in the recent years with the pitch clock, some of the other changes, I think this one they might feel differently about. What do you think?
I think it's a good change.
Well, I know we think it's a good change, but do you think it's a change the players are happy
yes.
that is happening?
Yes.
Versus like the pitch clock, there was a lot of players that were like, I don't know.
Because somebody has a longer routine. This is actually helpful.
Yeah, this helps them. All right. Quote, as they have in the past, players will review any proposed rule changes and provide their feedback and on-field experiences through the competition committee. Kevin Slowey, the Major League Baseball Players Association's managing director of player services, said in a statement, and that's a mouthful of a title. The technology used in ABS doesn't exactly mimic a human strike zone because umpires on average call balls and strikes differently depending on the count. A tighter zone on 0-2, for example, and a wider one on 3-0. That is weird to me. Like, why would you change the strike zone psychologically based on the count? Like, that seems like a flaw in the teaching at the beginning of umpire. Like, why does the count like that's are you trying to make it tighter like on purpose? Like, are you trying to get me to bite my nails? Not gonna happen. All right, well, Manfred, however, didn't indicate any outstanding concerns about the system's operation other than how players will react. If you continue to the next slide, it says, quote, my single biggest concern is working through the process and deploying it in a way that's acceptable to the players, Manfred said. I noticed he didn't say umpires there, Nika.
Well, he is on the side of the players on this one.
I think he sees it in his email.
He does. He's getting bombarded with emails, so the umps are going to be the ones resistant to it, like, you taking away my power.
Yeah. He goes on to say, there's always going to be things around the edges that we need to work through and whatever. And I want them to feel like we respected the committee process and that there was a full airing of concerns about the system and an attempt to address those concerns before we go forward. And again, I don't think there's a lot of concerns on the player's part. It's like when, not if.
Yeah.
when can we do this? Can we get it in now? I would love to see it in the playoffs this year, to be honest. It's not going to happen. They need to go through the full spring training. We saw this with the pitch clock. Even though they do have the power, they do have the power to do this. They could say, if they got the votes, they could say we're doing it after the All-Star break. They can do that.
And the players are used to doing it, so
no more ejections for tapping your helmet.
But it wouldn't be a huge change. It would be normal. It's something that you just do. Not everybody has to use it if you don't want to use it.
Hey, if you don't use it, then you're going to lose it.
Most likely.
All right, well, let's finish this article here. It says, players on the competition committee have almost universally been opposed to Manfred's on-field rule changes over time. Owner-player relations are going to get progressively more sensitive next season with the collective bargaining agreement's expiration after the 2026 season. But Manfred indicated that he wasn't going to move gingerly on rule changes because of the impending labor talks. MLB has long held the power to implement on-field rule changes that it wants, but in the current CBA, which went into effect in 2022, the league received the right to implement changes on shorter notice, 45 days after a proposal. That's where I got my All-Star break thing from. I don't understand the end of this article. I got to be honest, Evan Drellich. I don't think the players are going to be opposed to this.
I don't think so either.
I understand that they've been opposed to other rule changes like the pitch clock for certain reasons.
Different issues. This is beneficial to the player more so than the clock.
It is.
The clock is not beneficial.
Yeah, I don't know. Anytime you can challenge a referee's decision or an umpire's decision in sports, I think it's been universally accepted. I remember back when this was a thing in football, before and after. Like before replay and after replay in football. And people back then were like, oh, you're going to break up the flow of the game. And then think about it. Like, it's now second nature for us, right? Mm-hmm. Like, nobody says this anymore. Nobody complains because it's more important that they get the call right. Yeah. And 99 times out of 100 now with replay, they do. I know there's still weird replays that don't get called right. We saw a lot of them in baseball this week. But at least this system seems pretty foolhardy and should help umpires maybe even make better calls as the game goes on. Like, what if a call gets reversed and the umpire is like, oh, that's a strike, huh? Maybe I should call that pitch a strike now. It could help them make better choices as the game goes on. All right, so I'm ready for it. I'm ready for ABS. If they want to bring it in this year in the All-Star game, fine with me. Playoffs this year, fine with me. Whatever you think is best. But most likely we'll not be seeing this until the start of the 2026 season. And I'm excited. I'm really excited. Bring it on. Bring ABS into baseball. It says, we bargained for the right to make these kinds of rule changes, Manfred said. It was a really important part of the deal from our perspective. Everybody understood what the rules of the road are. Unlike the prior provision, there's actually a process that is involved that you go through, that you kind of have a chance to vet and talk about what should happen with the players. So I'm less reticent about that. And yeah, I mean, this is why they have the right to change the rules so quickly. And, you know, I think he's just flexing some muscle here, to be honest, with this quote and just saying, like, we can do this whenever we want, right, Nika? In the past, I have been a little squeamish about the year before bargaining. I don't feel that way right now. And again, I think the reason why he doesn't feel this way is because the players want this. It says MLB is also testing a check swing review system in the minors this season. It's unclear when that system will be tested by big leaguers. Manfred indicated that system was unlikely to be tested in Major League spring training next year because of the possibility everyone would still be adjusting to ABS. Quote, we haven't made a decision about the check swing thing, Manfred said. We do try to think sequentially about what's coming. I think we got to get over the hump in terms of either doing ABS or not doing it before you'd get into the complication of a separate kind of challenge involved in an at-bat. Right. You think about them, they're two different systems operating at the same time. We really got to think that one through. So yeah, if you were hopeful that there would be a check swing challenge system coming to MLB anytime soon, it looks like they're going to kind of keep these things compartmentalized, even though they are both kind of in the same realm. There were some comments about this, Nika, and I think this is one of the reasons why Manfred's moving so quickly on this, because the players want it and the fans also want it. Finally, this should have happened years ago. Let a robo-ump call all balls and strikes. Eric H., it's insane to move to a challenge system over full ABS. If we're going to trust ABS to overrule umps' incorrect calls, why allow these incorrect calls in the first place? It's funny, they want all automated now. No more umps, period. John W., umpires on average call balls and strikes differently depending on the count. A tighter zone on 0-2 and a wider one on 3-0. And this is what stood out to me in the article, Nika.
What's that?
Is that this is dumb. Like, why would you change the strike zone based on the count? That seems like a psychological flaw with umpires. I guess it just doesn't feel like accurate. This is the comments. I think people are excited about this, and I want to see ABS in baseball next year.